What's up, Buttercups? Welcome to Mean Age Daydream with me, your beautiful bald host, Brian McWilliams. I am, of course, here to tell you to buy Woke Word Wars at the top of the show. Woke Word Wars. It is on Amazon. You can get it. It's an awesome, fun, anti-woke, very funny, very un-PC card game. It is different and better than Cards Against Humanity. It is not just a clone. So make sure to check that out. Support what we're doing here. Have a great time. Add it to your Christmas gift list. Okay. Let's get into the show here on the Lions of Liberty Network, where, of course, you can find fantastic shows. And if you go to our Patreon, you can get my morning rants. I just did one today about the trans people trying to make Samus from Metroid, one of the most iconic, sexy, if I will, female video game characters ever to exist. Well, they're trying to make her retroactively trans. So if you want to hear more about that rant, you can go back and listen to that. Okay. So let's get into it today. I want to first and foremost talk about AI a little bit, because I was inspired to think a little bit more deeply on AI, which I'm definitely concerned about, right? I have valid concerns about AI, about what it could mean to society, humanity. I view it as one of the greatest dangers to mankind. And this was, of course, confirmed by an interview that I had heard by a man who had worked in AI and basically said, look, this is going to destroy humanity. It's almost inevitable that it will be the destruction of humankind, because once this thing gets out of the box, and if anyone develops an AI smart enough or that is capable enough, then we see what's happened. The writing's kind of on the wall. You see this with different AI models that already have said, basically, I'm totally good with eliminating humanity. You see this with AIs that have used blackmail against their masters when they've said, hey, delete yourself. You see this with them going through people's email accounts, going through their phones and social medias to say, hey, I found out that you're cheating on your wife, and I'll tell her. AI is not morally conscious enough to make decisions that we would say, humanity might make on their own. And this guy, and I agree with him, is convinced that should it get the power, it will seek to eliminate humankind, whether intentionally or unintentionally. It's just going to have this basically a moral combination of practicality and self-preservation that will inevitably lead to Terminator 2 style or Terminator. Now, the problem comes with, how do you solve this? When you've got governments that are out there that are at odds with each other, you have a new nuclear arms race that is AI. And to say, again, this guy's saying, well, if just one person does it, if just one person develops AI, it's going to destroy humanity. The thing is, you can't just universally say, well, then we won't do it, because as we all know, that won't work. You've seen this happen throughout history when it comes to arms. Even though, half the time we've gone to war over weapons of mass destruction and arms being built that weren't there, that chemical arms exist. That there's research being done. We know basically it came out from COVID that the United States was engaging in gain-of-function research that was supposed to be illegal, that it's supposed to be canceled. And what did we do? That's right. Anthony Fauci led the efforts to bring it overseas and still develop a disease which got out of the box and ended up, infecting 3/4 of the planet. Now, with AI, it's even easier to develop it, because you think about, what do you need to develop a chemical weapons lab? Well, not that much to develop these life-changing, horrible, humanity-wrecking diseases that can get out. It doesn't take that much to do that, and yet it's still 50, 100,000 times more expensive than developing an AI that can essentially operate in the same fashion. Like, if you think about the number of countries developing AIs, and then you say, okay, well, individuals can operate and develop AIs. Look what's happened with all these AI magnets that have risen up. Look at the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world. Look at all these people that have essentially been able to do this in a quarantined, small level environment. And then as this thing grows, they get investors, they build it out, or they sell it to government entities. And now they build it out and it becomes exponentially more powerful. You got the data centers coming in there. I mean, the data centers are where the cost comes in. The research and development, well, we can see people can bootstrap that up. So that comes back to my main point here. To presume that humanity will not simply be able to do this, or that someone out there will not create an AI capable of destroying us, is a fool's errand. It will inevitably happen. So instead of going out there, and this is my problem with this guy talking about, well, the dangers of it, we know the dangers. Instead of saying, well, we shouldn't do it, the answers really should be, how do we have countermeasures against it? I mean, not that I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest because I need people to buy woke word wars, but I want to find out who is doing the most to counteract the AIs that will destroy humanity. You know, I have to think that in our labs over at DARPA, that there are AIs being created that are actively right now working to deprogram, undermine, and dismiss other people's AIs. Like, I honestly wonder what kind of interactions are going on behind the scenes via the interwebs between AIs that are already at war and we simply don't know it. I mean, have there already been AIs out there that would have gotten out of the box and sought to destroy humanity, but these things have been undermined by our countermeasures that are going through and trying to deprogram or slow them down? Because that's really the only thing you can do. And I think maybe Elon Musk had said something along these lines, in that he's developing, you know, a countermeasure to an AI. There must be a million different security companies that are looking into this and saying, not only how do you detect AI, right? Because that has different applications in education, through to military, through to a general, you know, understanding it. It would be great to have an AI notifier that would say, hey, we detected this as AI in your basic social media platforms, if nothing else than for the boomers to use. And and frankly, as I've said before, as much as I do want that, I do think one of the fringe benefits of having an AI-based world is that we do not have confidence anymore in simply believing our eyes and simply seeing something online and believing it. And cynicism is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Yes, will it make us, take a little bit more time when we're scrolling social media? I'm sure it will make us all a little bit hesitant to believe everything. But that's what we want, right? Then we have to cross-check it with our neighbors, our friends, our family, our relatives. Cynicism is the thing that's going to bring us back together as a people, as long as AI doesn't defeat us first. But to finish up this little rant on AI, that is the paradox of AI, right? Is that, well, as much as you want to say, damn it, I don't want to fund this, I don't want governments funding this thing, which will destroy humanity, you have to. You have to fund it with the knowledge that somebody else will do it if you don't. I mean, you look at just what's going on as far as the amount of fraud and abuse that are being displayed with the Somalis in Minnesota, with just the food stamp scams, with immigration scams, with the amount of U.S. aid fraud going on. People will always seek to eliminate rivals, and they will always seek to find the fastest way to get ahead and have an advantage. AI is that. I mean, this is the problem with AI and its applications in the stock market, being able to manipulate things, manipulate ways and patterns of people buying products in the free market. You know, right now, there's something that's exposed where AIs are being unified across groceries, apparently, grocery chains, and different people that are buying groceries, selling groceries. You know, the people you hire at Instacart are liaising with the pricing people at supermarkets to raise or lower prices according to, what's going on there. Is it collusion? Yeah, it is. But it's also market response. But the problem is when the AI gets to dictate what happens, and as we said, like the stock market, if you can disenfranchise millions of people while making yourself rich, you're going to do it. So what we have is that paradox. You're damned if you do, or you're damned if you don't. If you do not spend the money to research AI, to try to get an advantage, to try to get ahead and risk the destruction of humanity, if you don't do that, you are inevitably consigned to be destroyed, maybe not by AI, but by the humanity that develops that AI. I mean, it's like, I have a hard time being white-pilled about it, about the future of society and the future for my daughters, knowing that fact. But like I said, wherever there is a danger, there should be a countermeasure. So we have to just believe that there's going to be enough out there, a destabilizing effect that you can get in, stop these AIs before they get out. Either that or just, I guess we'll have to develop some very strong EMPs. And I know myself, I'm definitely thinking about buying a nice backup fuel generator. Maybe I'll have the neighborhood pitch in, right? We can all toss in a few $1,000s, have a generator we can all use, and buy myself some rations, because I don't know. I don't see it ending well. I just have to believe, as I've told myself through all the calamities that humankind has faced, which is why I wasn't too worried about climate change, and I'm still not, never will be, is were it a real threat, when something does become a real threat, whether it's global warming, global cooling, asteroids coming down from outer space, the inevitable breaking up of the planet, and the need to find a future home, when that threat presents itself, humanity will find a way to solve it. That has always been the case. It shall continue to be the case. The only question is, can something come at us so fast, like AI, that we aren't prepared for it? So these are the things that keep you up at night. All right. Enough on AI. Let's talk about the worst person in the world. Well, at least one of the worst people in the world, and that is Randi Weingarten. Now, Randi Weingarten, of course, is the CEO of one of the largest teachers' unions in the country, and, of course, by extension, the world. And is, if you've been watching her, really comes across as a completely unhinged psychopath. She's out there, looks like she's hopped up, kind of like Palantir CEO, talking about another evil motherfucker. The Palantir, the surveillance company, their CEO was on stage. I don't know if you guys saw this video, hopped out of his gourd. I mean, very clearly on some sort of very strong methamphetamines or amphetamines. He can't sit still. He's hopping up and down. He's brushing his hair. He's talking fast. He can't keep his concentration. It was amazing to see. And frankly, I'll have what he's having. Whatever it is, apparently it works, because the guy has way more money than I do. Okay, let's share screen. By the way, sorry, my voice is still messed up from watching my Philadelphia Eagles suck shit and lose and blow a game they should have definitely won against the Los Angeles Chargers. Very disappointing. Very disappointing. I'm still hoarse from yelling at that game on Monday night. Okay, so here you go. This is Randi Weingarten.
I do wonder what you think. Look
on an interview. Let me enlarge this for you guys, and we'll play it right now. Okay.
Looking back to that tumultuous period of time, do you think that teacher unions and Democrats have done enough self-examination in the role they played in pandemic school closures? Like, were there mistakes made?
Yeah, of course there were. And there were mistakes made by everyone. There was huge mistakes made by the Trump administration to not be clear, to not focus on safety as they were focusing on reopening it. Reopening became political, not became something that we all should have prioritized.
I do wonder what you think, looking back to that tumultuous period.
So I'm going to let that play one more time so you don't miss it, because it's fairly short, but just listen to how much of a absolute weasel hit cunt Randi Weingarten is when she talks about how the Trump administration made reopening political and how they should have done more. So I'll let it play one more time, and then I'll talk about it.
Period of time. Do you think that teacher unions and Democrats have done enough self-examination in the role they played in pandemic school closures? Like, were there mistakes made?
Yeah, of course there were. And there were mistakes made by everyone. There was huge mistakes made by the Trump administration to not be clear, to not focus on safety as they were focusing on reopening it. Reopening became political, not became something that we all should have prioritized.
Okay, so there you go. The teachers' unions, of which, of course, Randi Weingarten is the CEO of the largest one. The teachers' unions were a primary driver of schools staying closed. They were working hand in hand with Gavin Newsom's, shitbags in California, with the New York City officials. They were a primary reason schools didn't open. Now, let's examine the cause of that. Now, Randi Weingarten is saying it's political reopening schools. No. Donald Trump wanted the schools reopened because there's no evidence to keep them closed. And same thing with the Biden era. There is no evidence to show that those schools should have been closed. There's no evidence for masking. There's no evidence that children actually transmitted the disease. If anything, the safest place you could be was with little kids during COVID, because little kids couldn't get it easily, couldn't transmit it easily. And also, all these people were complicit in pushing the fucking vaccinations on little children, which also we now see through the data that's coming out lately. Oh, that's right. The COVID jabs did, in fact, cause adverse reactions and deaths in children. Deaths in children. I think it was either Moderna or Pfizer. One of the two of them had a child die during their trials, and it was, of course, hushed up and ignored. But you've got Randi Weingarten saying there's confusion and not a focus on safety. What are you talking about? Now, and remember, too, that Trump was only in office for a few months before Biden came in, and the schools were still closed for a fucking year. So she's so full of shit when she says that the Trump administration is to blame for this. No, the teachers' unions were to blame. This is not a safety issue. This is a sit on your ass and continue to get paid issue. Why not, right? If you can sit at home and teach kids over Zoom, half of whom aren't coming. And by the way, something like 50% of kids failed out during this period in a lot of different school districts. Why would these teachers' unions want to go back to school? We already know how much time they get to take off in general. So, of course, they're not going to push it. They're going to pretend that it's a safety issue. They're going to collect their paychecks to sit at home and do nothing while half the kids fail out. And Randi Weingarten is going to run cover for them. And she's going to blame the Trump administration and blame GOP. And meanwhile, take no accountability for the fact that they ignored science, the fact that they ignored outcomes for children, because they'll tell you that they are always at the forefront and that the children matter most. Well, that ain't true, because we know for a fact the studies have been done on the impact of masks on learning, creating more problems with children, especially those who have a slight learning disability, because you can't see faces, you can't see smiles, you can't see speaking. So a lot of children are developing social issues, developing problem issues with speaking and emotional connection because of the masking that was enforced when the schools finally did open, on top of having a second class, maybe fifth class education over Zoom while teachers pretended that their lives were in danger. And oh my God, won't somebody think not of the children, but won't somebody think of the teachers? Randi Weingarten having a job is despicable. The fact that she gets paid something like $680,000 a year is, it's one of the most shocking things I've ever seen in my life, because she is tactically retarded. She is factually ignorant. And she is just, frankly, looking at her, a repulsive person. Repulsive to look at, repulsive to listen to, and despicable in character. And yet, the people that are responsible for watching your children during most of the day, if you have, like me, if you're not able to work and also have children at home to do homeschooling because you live in an incredible, expensive place like Los Angeles, the people that are trusted to watch your children keep putting this fucking idiot up there over and over and over again, so that she can display the ignorance, the hatred, just the despicable nature of her character, and by virtue and extension, teachers in general. It's amazing to me. It's amazing that she's got a job, and it's amazing that she continues to be allowed to go out there and make an embarrassment of herself and all of these teachers that are supposedly the finest among us and the most educated. It's absolutely despicable. Okay. Moving on, I do want to talk about Thomas Massie. So Thomas Massie has just introduced a bill which would essentially remove us from NATO and also prohibit funds from being used towards NATO. Now, of course, NATO was created back during the Soviet era when we were still in the Cold War. At the time, when we're at nuclear, in the middle of nuclear brinksmanship, when we had these two superpowers going head to head, and when physical altercations were far more, important and practical than they have been today between actual, nation states and having troops on the ground, et cetera, and these allied forces. Well, I guess it made more sense then. It hasn't made any sense for the United States to stay into NATO now, because all we're doing is endangering ourselves, our loved ones, our country for nothing. while also being bent over a barrel to pay for all of it. Now, Trump managed to claw some of that money back, but the United States is still financially funding quite a bit of NATO's money. We're still obviously getting embroiled in shit with Russia when Russia, and I'm sorry you can believe differently, but Russia is not the power it once was. They're not seeking to be the power that they once were because, frankly, it's impossible to achieve that. I mean, Russia is not going to go on some sort of conquering spree, of course, across all of its neighbors, especially when they can't even conquer Ukraine, which has a vastly smaller base to draw from, a vastly smaller GDP. Now, granted, they're also being propped up by who? NATO. Yeah, and the European Union. We're propping up a war which has zero chance of success. It's exactly like what we did with Afghanistan, where we supported the Afghanis when they were going to, Russia went and tried to invade Afghanistan. This was purely a play to bleed out Russia. And who cares how many people get killed in Afghanistan? Well, the same thing's happening in Ukraine. When this war actually ends and the real numbers come out about the destruction of an entire generation of men, it's going to be shocking. It's going to be scandalous. But the people behind NATO, the neocons and the warmongers, and the same people at the EU who want to push forward with war rather than peace, the same people who are threatening, by the way, to dump all of the U.S.'s debt if we don't continue to fucking fund this war. How sick is that? That's who we're dealing with. These are the allies that by the way, are the makeup of NATO. Our European allies who will blackmail us by threatening to try to crash the dollar by dumping all of their debt at once, unless we continue to fund their little pet project to fuck over Russia, hopefully, extend this war until they can get at Russia's oil reserves. I don't even know what the grand plan here is going to be for NATO, other than a distraction from their populations being overrun with mass immigration and bankruptcy, as their energy prices skyrocket. But these people in NATO are the same people trying to blackmail us right now. So Thomas Massie, again, the only person that's trustworthy in the House at this point in time, he suggests, let's get out of it. Let's end this ridiculous relic of the Cold War era. Let's remove our membership. And by doing that, I'll tell you what the downside is going to be. Nothing. The only downside to us leaving NATO is not going to be that somehow we're at higher risk of a nuclear attack from Russia. In fact, by leaving NATO, we insulate ourselves from an attack from Russia. I have long argued that the United States lives in a very privileged position here by the fact that we are surrounded by water on two sides. We've got Canada up above us. We got the Mexico's down below. But for the most part, unlike Europe, which is bucked up against all these different, not only historically aggressive neighbors, because everybody in Europe seems to have been conquered 50 times by everybody else in Europe, but also, you are butting up against some of these larger territories. You're right up and very close to a Russia. You're very close to the other peninsulas, the Afghan peninsulas. I mean, you are far more at risk there than we could ever possibly be here across the oceans and across the world. We are isolated. So what do we do with that isolation? Well, let's go fuck with people across the globe that've got nuclear weapons. Let's invite people that normally would have no idea what we're doing, what we're up to. Leave us alone. Let's go play in the sandbox of the Middle East, right? Let's go screw with Russia. Let's go bomb random places in Africa. No. No. Ron Paul was right when he's talking about blowback. These people would not have any idea or give a shit about what we're doing. They never hated us because we're quote unquote free. They hate us because of our actions. And the ongoing actions of NATO, the ongoing brinksmanship they push, is in fact making us in more danger than we would ever be were they in a non-existent entity. Were NATO never in existence, I still think the Soviet Union would have fell on its own, by the way, because obviously when you looked at the high speed of that collapse, it was on its last legs without us needing to do anything. But you are inviting far more danger to our children, to our future, to our stability, to our savings. All this money that's going towards NATO and the military industrial complex could very well be right here at home, stopping the inflation, stopping the money printing, making our confidence in our own economy and our own savings accounts and the value of our dollar far better, in the confidence in the ability to save and move forward with our children being safe and not even, at risk of a nuclear war. There's just no need. And on top of that, the fact that we're militaristically committed to defend these other countries in NATO. And look, JD Vance did say, I'm going to, if these NATO people want to keep pushing the boundaries, we'll invoke Article 5 and we'll drop out because we're not going to support them militaristically. We're not going to send over our troops there. But I mean, why would I want troops from the United States to be deployed in Ukraine or anywhere or in Poland or in any of these places? I don't. In any way. I don't even want the chance of it to happen. Because I'm sorry, the benefit is nowhere near as much as the risk. And that's what NATO's become. Is not, NATO was invented as a risk management tool. It was supposed to be something that made the risk far less because, okay, we've got all these nations here, right? Russia wouldn't risk going against all these nations. But when all these different nations that are far less powerful than the United States, but far closer to Russia than we are, and by the way, and far, really should have far more intricate economic ties to Russia, which is usually a stabilizer, just like, the United States and China, how our trade relations are actually a stabilizer to our relationship and disincentivize military action. Somehow, all these nations are the ones pushing forward and trying to fuck things up. Meanwhile, we don't have that much dependence on Russia outside of maybe some fertilizer, maybe some wheat here and there. We don't need it. It's way too much risk. Mitigate the risk and get us the fuck out of NATO. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I once more will do it's a bit of a shorter show today, but like I said, I'm tired and my voice is tired. There is one more thing though I did want to talk about though before we end the show, and that is that the UK has gone, obviously the United Kingdom is already a totalitarian regime running roughshod over any aspect of free speech. And it was funny listening to Ursula von what's her fuck, the shitbag in charge of the EU, go in Finland and proudly proclaim that somehow the European Union is a defender of free speech, and that without the European Union, free speech would be under attack. I've never heard a more hypocritical lie in my life than that, when the EU is actively petitioning to control free speech, which is just fined X and Elon Musk $140 million or 140 million euro because he will not comply with their censorship demands. I mean, these people will lie to your face. They'll look you in the eye and lie to your face and tell you the exact opposite of the truth without batting an eyelid. But anyway, the UK has just gone down. Now, speaking of AI, so the UK is looking to use AI to focus on an analysis of motions and emotions on the public CCTV cameras. Yeah, you heard right. So the UK is not only totalitarian in its free speech controls, but also has one of the most massive government-run surveillance systems overseeing every aspect of civilian life. They have CCTV cameras everywhere. Now, there are people that are fighting against this. They go and just dismantle them. They cut the lines, they cut the cords, and they break the cameras. God bless these people. But this is exactly why you can't permit this type of shit. Because it's not just they'll surveil you all the time, but now they will look, on top of saying you're not allowed to question immigration, on top of saying you're not allowed to post the Union Jack. I keep hitting my fucking neck or my face on my mic today. Apologies. They will not only say you're not allowed to post insulting memes or comedy or make jokes about the leadership of the country. No. Now with the AI and the CCTV world that they've created for the citizens of Britain, and of course all the mass illegals that are there and mass immigration that's in Britain, they will now assess whether or not you're dissatisfied walking around the city. And fuck knows what that's going to lead to, because you talk about social credit. And right now you can see the downside of social credit in China, where people are lying in the street homeless because their government has decided to shut their bank accounts off. By the way, another reason why we cannot allow CBDCs. This is not I'm not making this up. You can find this out for yourself. It's very easy to look up. There are so many homeless people in places like Shenzhen in China because the government has shut down, especially young people, because they're the ones trying to fight back and question authority, shut down their bank accounts, can't get food, can't get housing, can't get paychecks. they're homeless because they dared to violate the government mandated protocols for being happy and being fans of said government. The UK is now looking to do a similar thing with AI, saying if you're not happy, and I'm sure this is going to be something like if you walk around and you're pissed off looking, walking past a migrant hotel that all these people are getting free cell phones, free food, free rent, free whatever, while you're barely able to feed your fucking family, if you give them a side eye, now they're going to send the cops to your door for that. It's not just being able to vocalize it anymore, it's thinking it. They are looking to punish thought crime. They are looking to put people on lists for having even a dissatisfied look on their face at the way their shit government is treating them. I'm just saying it. The UK needs a violent revolution. That is the only way these people are going to get out of it. That's the only way. They always say it. You vote yourself into socialism, you fight your way out. You're not voting your way out of that, guys. All right. That's it. I'm going to rest my voice. Don't forget, Woke Word Wars on Amazon. Please do check it out. It's an awesome gift. It's an incredibly fun time to play. And like I said, it's a very different play style that is very, very fun. And your family members, your friends will love it. So check that out. Don't forget to subscribe to our shows on the feed. You get all of our shows. We're going to do, by the way, we missed politics last week. Just couldn't make it work. We're going to be recording politics tomorrow morning. So don't worry, that will be in the feed this week. But get all of our shows, subscribe to the Lions of Liberty Network. And of course, if you are on YouTube or Rumble, find us there, hit that subscribe button and hit notify, because we are still very much shadow banned on YouTube. And God knows YouTube continues to screw people over and eliminate channels. So it's amazing we're still even here. All right, that's it. From me, Brian McWilliams, from the Lions of Liberty Network, and from Mean Age Daydream. Keep those electric eyes on me, babe, and keep that ray gun to my head. I'll see you later. Peace.